we are. Got my, it's the middle of the year. Get to update my gaming. Um, Let me start with some quick upkeep related stuff while people show up or don't. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I think here. Yep. So here we have my game award tracker, I suppose you would call it. Since the last time I did this, which was end of January, I believe not all of 2024, not all of the major award shows had happened, but of course now in July they have, and it is Astrobot, which I believe had 2 out of 7 in January, now has 4 out of 7. Could go up to 5, even though all of the 2024 award shows are done. The Japan Game Award show has I think it's like March to March or something like that. And the award show is going to happen pretty soon, maybe a month from now. I don't know exactly. But I believe Astrobot is eligible for the 2025 award to win that one. So there's a chance it could go up to 5 out of 7, although it does have to compete with Monster Hunter Wilds. Monster Hunter Wilds is the one that came out. I have a second sheet with all the games that have been coming out. Not all of them, but all the major ones at least. But yeah, since the last time I did also organize them, you can see that there's one column for Japan, there's 2 that are held in the UK, even though Golden Joystick is more of like a popularity web vote type of thing, not necessarily the UK critics. And then the US has 4 award shows. My criteria here was, again, just they have like a show when they do like a live stream, and the people actually go to the event and sit down and stuff, which a lot of shows I think don't really seem to do. Over here in this column I have that was another award show that used to exist, South by Southwest. I believe it was held in Texas. Lasted for a couple of years. Let me scroll so it shows up on the stream. For the most part, pretty similar. Like, falls in line with the other American award shows, so it's not too interesting outside of the Final Fantasy XIV 14 pick. But yeah, there it is. And the second sheet is here, release 2025. I was looking at games that are coming out, and then also trying to put up a sort of prediction, I guess, for what seems to be the front runner for the Game Awards. Specifically that one, just because it's the largest Game Award show, easiest to follow along with. I believe their criteria thing is like December to November. So the games that came out like very end of November and December of, it says 23 here, so it should say 24. I believe are eligible. But yeah, these are all the games that came out, games that are scheduled to come out. The ones I have highlighted in sort of purple here, I was thinking like it seemed like they had the most publicity, um, or at least have had, if they haven't come out. And then, yeah, what else? There's games, there's a delayed column for games that were previously stated to release in 2025 but were delayed at some point. You got Fable, you got GTA 6, Pal World, which is already out in early access, but it's just like the non-early access. Um, yeah, and then down here I just have a bunch of games that don't have a date yet. Hello Tribal, but presumably they're going to come out this year. I would imagine, especially, I mean, it's July, so would not be surprised if some of these games don't get dates until like a month or two away from it coming out. That happens here and there. Um, but especially ones that felt like concepts more than actually finished games, like this Marvel 1943 game. I saw that. I was like, this is just a bunch of screenshots. No surprise that it's delayed. But there's other games that are like that. Like, I think Spine is like, I think it has a gameplay video, but it's like not very put together. This game here, Show American Story, I know has a pretty cool trailer, but it's just a trailer. Would not be surprised to see that delayed. Um, but then there's games with gameplay, right? Like Metroid Prime has gameplay shown. This game here, I'm pretty sure has gameplay shown. Slay the Spire 2 is out, just in early access though. So it's like those feel safer to say that they'll still be coming out. You've got all of November, December to fill up here. Yeah. And then scrolling down, I have here what I'm looking at for the Game Awards. What I think seems like has the best chance of winning. At the beginning of the year, based on what I knew was coming out, I put up, six games because I feel like that's usually the amount that gets nominated for the Game Awards. Um, so yeah, pretty just whatever seemed big and stuff. GTA, Elden Ring, Metroid Prime, Death Stranding 2. Of course, GTA is delayed, and I mean I guess the rest are still set to come out. So other than that, could still be this way. Um, then of course I have each month here. This is so 31 would be, that's the last date. So this would be January, February, and then 31 is when I stop uh, and move on to the next month. And so I don't need to talk too much about it, but I guess I have here also a calculation of like how much percent I should be allocating. Because each game, if 6 games got 100%, it would be 600. And then this, if you look, I guess in the top left, there's a little formula of like 600 times the amount of months that have passed. Yeah. And by the end, it'll be 12 out of 12, I guess. Although November, like mid-November, is when it actually ends for the Game Awards. So there's that. I have here like games that came out, games that are set to come out, and then so on, so on, so on. Move all the way up to the current one. Um, Definitely seems like Claire Obscure has, it's definitely going to get a nomination at least. I still think the Indiana Jones game, which I believe is within the qualifying standard, has a good chance of being nominated. Death Stranding 2 seems to be doing pretty well. And then I guess my other three right now is Mario Kart World, Monster Hunter Wilds, Split Fiction, and I guess Doom the Dark Ages. I haven't actually updated this in a little while. I think at the start of this month I looked at it and put some numbers in, and that's been it so far. Um, but yeah, I think my picks are pretty basic. Maybe the only weird one is Monster Hunter Wilds. I feel like it's very big in Japan, um, and there's a lot of people playing it worldwide. But I don't know if it'll necessarily make it for the Game Awards held in the USA. But who knows? That's pretty much that for extra stuff, I believe. Um, so I'll get right into the game reviews. Here's the 25 games I played so far. You know, the amount of time I spent playing them. Um, is there anything I need to say here? Here's my schedule. I guess I can talk about that at the end though, like future plans. But I guess for now it's like I've been pretty, I've put them on the schedule and then I do play them. I didn't play Peglin, but I believe that's next on my list. I have it here in progress, although I haven't actually started it. And then I didn't play any of the Arkham games yet. But, yeah. Oh, and I did try to play this game, but the settings weren't working for me, so it didn't happen. Um, that's it. I think I can go to game reviews. Oh, one thing that is different here is that I don't have a webcam on, and that's because I'm having it's like a weird that maybe there was a Windows update or something that made it so that the headset mic stop doesn't work now. Um, so I am just using the webcam as a microphone, and I mean I can turn it on, but yeah, I mean it's just pointed at the ceiling. Hello, uh, but yeah, not in its usual place, cause like look, this thing, you don't hear this at all, right? I mean maybe you hear it from the mic if I go like this. Sorry if that's loud, but that's where the sound's gonna be coming from, and I'm gonna have to set this down and put it back up every time. But we got get into the games rating, get this done. First game, Lego Batman the video game. Copy. Oh, can I do all this with one hand? I don't have to put it down. Paste. There we go. So this was the first game I played this year, pretty early on. It's been a while. I remember I wanted to play it because at some point Epic Games gave away both Batman Arkham Trilogy and the Lego Batman Trilogy, and I was like, I should get started on something there. And Lego Batman, pretty short game, couple hours shorter than Arkham. Uh, so I figured, let me see what these Lego franchise games are about. Um, so I guess what I want to do is overview sort of my 4 points, right? Gameplay. It's what I expected. I've seen Lego videos before. You walk around and you hit things, and then you go up to the jumping pile of Legos, and then you can build something, and it does it automatically for you. Um, yeah, there are like driving and flying missions in this game. They're okay. Um, I guess yeah. I mean it's good to have a little variety. I guess is what to say. I wouldn't say it's like I'm playing. I'm thinking, oh, this is incredible, driving the bat boat or whatever it's called. Um, but it's all right. Um, gameplay, pretty much what I expected. Pretty standard stuff. The story is, I would say it's also, middle of the road here. There's no voice acting in this one. I've heard that there is voice acting in the later Batmans, but that's not too big a deal. I think for a game where the characters are all completely silent, um, it's actually pretty good at conveying sort of what's happening through like gestures. So that's nice. I do think that the story isn't like particularly strong. Maybe because it's like you just have the DC characters. I was gonna say Marvel, but DC characters, and it's like you roughly understand. Even if you don't know Batman, like there are superheroes and there's supervillains, and that's just how it is. Um, I don't think the game really goes into anything crazy. It's not like a Alan Wake story or anything like that. It's yeah, but it's not like a slog or anything, right? It's like it's all right to see the story cutscenes and watch. When you're not playing the game, watch the those scenes. Um, Characterization, I guess, is a little weak in that sense because it is just Batman and Robin and the Joker, and they don't really do anything with them. It's more of like a little like side story overall, which for a kids game, I think that's completely fine. Um, Although generally video games are made for many video games, I guess not all of them. Many video games are made for children. Um, but yeah, they don't really take the characters anywhere. No like big revelation for Batman, um, which I wouldn't really have expected from Lego Batman. But yeah, it's all fine. It's all like I'm not disappointed or anything. But like how can I put this? Like I'm not gonna give it points for nothing really special, I guess. Um, and then the last thing, the visuals and the environment. Um, I mean, if we're talking graphics, it's nothing crazy because it's Lego. But yeah, I mean, again, you wouldn't really expect that from Lego to be like super realistic or like a super, not even super realistic. It was just like a very standout artistic style. Um, the environments are all, I guess, again within expectations for the Batman franchise. There's nothing that pops out to me now, several months later, of like, oh, I remember this big scenic moment that happened. Um, so yeah, pretty middle of the road all the way through, I suppose. I do think I can definitely see how someone maybe younger, when if they play this very young, how they could have some nostalgia for it. Um, I do kind of wonder maybe if like in the case of Lego Batman, my ability to enjoy it is maybe like I was too late playing it. But I did play like a Ben 10 game when I was younger, and it was a similar type of game where you kind of run around and punch things, and then you might do like a little simple puzzle. Uh, but yeah, but instead of Batman, Lego Batman, it's Ben 10. And that game, I mean, it was fine, but I don't really remember it too well either. But yeah, I will give this a 2.5. And yeah, not a bad game at all, but nothing too crazy standing out. We have Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy here, marked in red because I was unable to finish the game because it started crashing, and I decided I was gonna put it as a completed game anyway because I would have completed it if it wasn't crashing. Um, but yeah, I feel like yeah, I mean that's just how it is. Like I would have finished it if it let me. Um, which is of course is different from if I decide to not finish the game on my own, in which case I don't really want to give a rating in that way. Uh, but this game, I guess leading up to it, what I heard about it is that you hear a lot about how Marvel's Avengers was like not a great video game, and then because of that, supposedly nobody bought this game, even though this game turned out to be really good, and a lot of people say that it's underrated. Um, which I can understand. Um, so, starting off with the gameplay, it's definitely the weakest part of the game, unfortunately. Um, it is, you play as a Star Lord, and, he runs around and shoots things with his dual space pistols. Doesn't really have a lot of impact, a lot of energy. It's not a very interesting fighting style, I suppose. And I mean, even like shooting stuff is like in comparison to like other shooting games, it's like this game is kind of like weak. Um, just like I don't know how exactly to put it. I mean, that like the audio on the bullets hitting the enemies is not very good. I suppose could be better. The I guess maybe the recoil, whether it's the self recoil or the recoil of the enemies, not particularly amazing. Um, but and it's kind of like rough because that's like the main thing you do in the game. Um, but I guess it feels sort of like as you play it, you realize that that's like not what the game is about, which is weird because it's like such a central aspect of the gameplay that it's weird that it's not what the game is supposed to be good at. Um, the other gameplay aspects is there's a lot of like assist stuff you can do, and that's pretty cool. Uh, usually you're fighting with a team of four other people, the rest of the guardians, and you can command them, have them do an assist here and there. When you're not commanding them, they're like little AI, and they run around. And sometimes when you're fighting an enemy close to them, you can team up, and that's pretty cool. So yeah. And then outside of outside the shooting and the fighting, there's platforming, which is fine, and then there's walk around and talk to people, which I feel like that's kind of like a hard like gameplay wise, it's hard to mess that up, right? Like story wise and character wise, that's a different story. But like gameplay wise, you can make a game where you walk around and talk to people, and that's not too difficult. Um, it's gameplay. The I'm thinking gameplay story. Let me write this down so I don't forget the four things I want to talk about: visual and characters, which I consider distinct from story and characters. Let's do visuals. The visuals looks pretty solid. I do think that the reason the game was crashing was maybe because of performance issues, which I felt like for the visuals the game had, felt like it shouldn't be happening. Like maybe the game was uh, not optimized well. Um, but I don't really know because maybe obviously there's going to be people who are better at optimizing games than others. But this game did come out like 2020, 2021. And, I played Control 2019. That game looks visually close enough. Um, I guess maybe it depends on how high you set the graphics. But I would say, visually close enough. And I also played Death Stranding, which, I mean, is visually pretty incredible. But I've heard stuff about the engine it was run on and how it's like particularly well optimized. So maybe that's a special case. But yeah, I mean the visuals are fine. There's a good variety too. You go to a bunch of different planets. Uh, they've got good colors. I guess is what I want to say because it's not all like you're in like a dark cave all the time. I mean, and when you are in a dark cave, it's like there's still like maybe some glowing green stuff or something like that, and then maybe you'll be out in a forest, and it'll have some strange looking trees, some good settings, some good visuals in that sense of like what you get to look at. The story, I would say, is about equivalent to a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, maybe like Age of Ultron or Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think those are the only two that I've seen. Um, yeah, I mean it's fine. I guess maybe I didn't get to the end is the hard part about the story that makes it tough to sort of place it because I think the ending does matter a lot. And I didn't get to that point. But the story up to that point, I was like, this is all fine. It feels like I'm watching a Marvel movie. And then lastly, the characters. I think the characters is really solid. Are really solid. Um, I guess one of the big draws of the game that could be a negative if you're not into it. But the Guardians, they kind of just like while you're playing the game, they just like to talk to each other a lot, and it's I mean if you're not into them talking, then that's bad. But if you are, I feel like a lot of their dialogue is actually like solid banter, good good to listen to. There were definitely moments where I hit like a trigger and it stopped the dialogue, and I was like, wait, you didn't finish the sentence there, and I actually did want to hear it. Um, yeah, so that's a really big plus there, I would say, for Guardians of the Galaxy. Some good writing for what's like I guess like it's gonna come up when you're playing as you're just playing the game. You're gonna start hearing them talking. But yeah, it is tough because I didn't get to finish it, and I would like to at some point. But I am going to give at least what I got up to of this game a 3 out of 5. This is out of 5 again, as always. Um, I guess sort of pending, the ending of the game. Maybe we'll see if it gets up there to makes it to a 4. Um, Next game, Turmoil. This is a if you ever played, there's a Flash game called Oilgarchy, I think. I saw that and I was like, isn't this that game? And I looked it up and I was like, Oilgarchy. It's not exactly similar, but it's similar enough. You place things down, you mine for little pockets of oil. You do also have to scan for them, which you do that in Oilgarchy too. And yeah, it plays out kind of like a board game almost, but I did feel like it felt a little long-winded to work as like a multiplayer board game, especially the oligarchy part. It's like you're there for a little while. Um, but yeah, and that's all there really is there. This is kind of a shorter one. Yeah, the gameplay. I mean, it's fine. You scan, you drill for oil, you try to get get the oil up there, and then you have to sell it, and the price fluctuates, so you want to sell high. Story, there's no story. Characters, there's basically no characters. I mean, they have like a character that you play as who looks like a thing, and then like the opponents you play as will have characters too, and they'll have a couple lines of dialogue, but they don't particularly stand out. And the visuals are, I mean, better than oligarchy. But yeah, I played it because I saw it and I saw it looked like oligarchy, and I was like, I enjoyed that game when I was young, younger. Um, but yeah, just pretty much. I wasn't expecting a crazy game, and I feel like it didn't exceed my expectations. It was just a game where you drill for oil. New York Times Simulator. This is actually a super short game, but after or maybe not after, while I was playing Turmoil, I went and I looked up Oligarchy, and I was like, that guy who made it, does he still make games? And as it turns out, he does. Or maybe she, I don't actually know. They do. Um, and their most recent game was the 2024 New York Times Simulator. Um, it's very short. It's a free game as well. Easy to play. Um, the let me see. The premise is you are the New York Times, right? Or equivalent newspaper, and you get to pick headlines. It gives you a news story, and then you can sort of cycle through various headlines for it, and then the headline you put out um, kind of changes maybe the popularity of the newspaper and stuff, but also there's like 3 um, sort of like maybe funders of your newspaper. It's like the government. Uh, I forgot the other 2. I think one of them might have been Israel. Uh, um, and then you kind of choose, and based on what you choose, their opinion of you goes up or down, and you don't want to make everyone too mad, but like if you're lying, the public gets upset, stuff like that. And it's a pretty short game, takes like 10 minutes, maybe at most. I think I played it a couple times and I have like a 14-minute playtime in there. Uh, it is pretty political, I would say. I mean, that's the news is going to be that way. And I mean, oligarchy was kind of political too. You know, you get to be the president and then destroy the nature reserves, right, in that game. Um, so yeah. Uh, I'm going to give it a 2.5. I don't think it was a bad game, but I can't say it like really stood out. Ghost Runner's next. Another game that I tried to play and then it started crashing. I actually played this game specifically because after Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like, let me try and find a gauge, you know, a couple games, see like what works and what doesn't. Ghost Runner here doesn't. It lets me play all the levels actually, at least the ones I've unlocked. But it does occasionally just crash, you know, several minutes into a level. Um, I think a lot of these levels can be beaten in like a couple minutes, but it is one of those games where like, uh, how do I put it? It's like one of those like difficult games that purposely make themselves difficult, and you gotta like go through, get everything right. There's the checkpoints are pretty generous, so you only have to get each thing right properly. But if you quit, and the reason why I was unable to finish this game is that if you exit the game, including if the game crashes, it doesn't save your progress. Um, and I looked online, and a lot of people were like, it does that because it's intentionally trying to be like a hard game, and you're supposed to like tough it all the way through to the next like actual save checkpoint at the end of each chapter. But you know, when the game crashes, it's like I can't really get that done. Um, Otherwise, you know, a pretty cool game. You know, it's a lot of platforming, um, and then you do. I guess enemies will show up and they'll shoot bullets at you, and you can slow mo to dodge the bullets. You can run on walls. Um, Generally, what you want to do is dodge the bullet because if you get hit by any bullet, you die instantly. And then you want to use your katana, I guess, because you don't have a gun, you have a sword, and you do all the opposing. I think all the opposing enemies also die in one hit, so there's that as well. I did see from like trailers and stuff that there is boss fights. I didn't get to one. Crashed too early in the game for me. Um, but yeah, very nice visuals. Very dark though. Very no like crazy standout like, oh, remember looking at this that I can remember. Um, yeah, gameplay was good except for the part where it crashed and then didn't save progress. Visuals, nothing crazy. Story, there was story happening. I don't know. I didn't really get far enough to really be swept into it at all, unfortunately. And same with the characters. I didn't really learn who anyone was. Um, Maybe someday when I upgrade my PC, I'll come back to it. Yeah, yeah. There is, if the game is hard, there's an easy difficulty if you want. I don't think it really changes much. There are also, or is there an easy difficulty? There's modifiers, and you can add up to one bonus health. So you get hit twice, you die, right? I think. Um, and then like more slow mo or something, slower slow mo maybe. Um, I don't know, maybe less aggressive enemies. I don't really know. It's nothing too crazy. It doesn't let you go crazy on it. I think it's because it's a game trying to be difficult. But it gets a 2.5 from what I got up to. Super Mario 74 is next. This is a uh, old ROM hack that I played with Mike and Tribal. A couple other people here and there, but I would say primarily those two. Um, how can I put this? I mean, it's Mario 64, and we were using the multiplayer mod. System of a Town is Peak. Uh, I mean, it's a great name for sure. This is an absolutely incredible name. Um, I guess if I had to say, right, like just introducing it's Mario 64. Someone out there just made their own set of levels with their own ideas. If I had to say, I definitely um, got a sense of like this is not made by Nintendo, right? Like this is someone making their own thing. Obviously using Nintendo's assets, I suppose. But like, how can I explain this? Like I guess like the quality is sort of not there in this. And it's not like you can still control Mario normally, and a lot of the stuff that happens collecting stars is all like pretty fine. But I guess, well, let me explain what was bad. I guess um, Mario 64 doesn't have the greatest camera, but I feel like in this uh, is it a ROM hack? It's a ROM hack. In this ROM hack, I feel like it becomes more obvious how much worse, like how bad it is, right? Like the original Mario 64 game has definitely has some bad camera moments, but like I think the game is sort of designed well enough that like it's not a huge detriment to Mario 64. Like up until you get into like maybe trying to speed run and trying to do very specific stuff, then it's like now you want the camera to function, and it's like for this very specific thing maybe it doesn't work anymore. Um, but here in Super Mario 74, there's like a lot more situations where I feel like the camera is just like it's like here's the this is the here's the Mario 64 camera, and it's not good. Um, what else? The levels, they're okay. Um, the level quality can definitely vary. There is I mean there is Aluminium Sphere. That one was really funny though. Just like a level that's like impossible to complete until you're really good at Mario 64, which I am not. And then of course they have like the negative Aluminium Sphere right afterward. Like here's the same level but it's upside down or whatever it was. Certainly a design choice. Um, I feel like there was like a fair amount of like levels where sometimes they just had like a completely random structure. Because I guess when I think of Mario 64, I do sort of think of like Dwam's Fortress is like is kind of like a little compact world, but like here it's like sometimes they just kind of slot a bunch of blocks and you got to platform up them, and it's like not really integrated into like the setting and visuals, I guess. Um, I think that's all I really have to say about it. I mean, the gameplay is Mario 64, but it's made by a fan, and as a result, it doesn't have like the same ease of access, I suppose. Story, Mario 74 doesn't have a story. Characters doesn't really have. I mean, we had costumes on, so you could pick uh, various various characters. I believe I was Gromit from Wallace and Gromit the whole way through. Uh, good characters, I suppose. I do think the flaws of Mario 64 are accentuated in this mod though. Um, but it was still fun to play. But I am gonna give it a below average score for Luminium Spear, and not even Luminium Spear. There's that ice level. Like I was never gonna beat that. Maybe Mike was able to do it, but like, come on, how am I supposed to do that? Yeah. Castlevania Order of Ecclesia is next. Let's get through it. This was the first the club game of February, because I got the pick for January. I picked Transistor. Great game. I would recommend it. This game was February's club game, Castlevania. It's a DS game, I believe. It's the first Castlevania I played. Um, let's see. I guess we'll just get right into the gameplay. I mean, it plays like Castlevania. It's a side scrolling. You don't have a whip in this game necessarily, right? Because the main character of this game is a magician, sort of, and they kind of just use things like, how do I put this? When you defeat certain enemies, you can absorb like a rune that appears, and the runes can give you various powers. Sometimes like a swinging weapon, not a. I don't know if there's a whip, but there's like a hammer and like a sword, and then there's also spells. You can like uh, fire. You can fire. Maybe like an ice shot, or like a tornado. Maybe I don't know if that's actually in the game, but it's probably there. There's a big variety of attacking in Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. Um, because of this, which I would say is a good thing. I don't know if that's in every Castlevania game. Um, there is a leveling system as well. So like hit you hit enough enemies, you'll gain experience, and then you can level up. So I would say that's a good way to get around, difficulty, right? If it's too difficult, you can kind of sit there and level up and then move on. Um, and I would say that the game it's not that hard, but it's relatively hard, which works well with the leveling system, because there's not going to be a situation where you can easily over level yourself and then just breeze through the game. Like it's going to be difficult, and then you would choose to grind afterward. Um, that's basically it for the gameplay, right? Side scrolling, different weapons, different abilities, and yeah, and then you can level up. And the game is challenging, so that works well with leveling up. Um, Story is it's actually it's pretty good, but I feel like for a DS game, just the style of it, where you kind of don't have big cutscenes or anything. Um, there's no crazy standout. That's all I really got to say about the story, to be honest. Characters are fine. There's a very sort of maybe sort of muted mood to the whole game where there's no like super energetic character. Um, the villains all feel very calm and composed. Your character feels very calm and composed. That might just be Castlevania in general, though. Um, I believe there's a story reason for her being that way, which was discussed in the club meeting for it. But even then, it's like she's probably still that way anyway. Is what it feels like at least. And then the sort of visuals and setting. I mean, it's a DS game. It looked a lot like the Princess and the Pauper, some Barbie game that I saw many years ago. Has a movie too. It's a video game based off the movie. I was like, visually it looks like this, which is nothing wrong with that. Nice little pixel style, but like trying to build something somewhat realistic looking. Uh, Environments, it was okay. I mean, it all fits that sort of muted mood, I would say, where there's nothing like super amazing that's popping out to me. I did like the music to this game. Uh, does have a very specific sound font to it, I guess because it's sort of DS limited, but had some nice tracks. It's going to get a slightly above average score here. 3 out of 5. Plague Tale Innocence is next. This is a pretty highly regarded game from what I understood before playing it. I believe it was like nominated for stuff at major award shows, such and such. Um, Visually, it looks pretty nice. The premise is play as I guess teenage girl, I guess I would say. And you kind of run through like sort of medieval world. Um, it's stealth. It's stealth is what it is. Stealth puzzle game. Um, and like you have like the grass to hide in. You can level up your skills to fight a little bit, but like you die if someone catches up to you. But like you have a sling and you can throw rocks, take people out. Um, in the night levels, there's rats. That's what the plague part of the Plague Tale is about, the rat plague. And you don't want to be caught by the rats, but the rats avoid the light. So there's like a puzzle aspect to it with like being in the light, and then using that to your advantage if you can, move lights around and stuff. It's pretty cool. The visuals very very solid, in line with Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. It looks kind of like that sort of game, but it's medieval style. Story, I feel like it didn't really stand out to me. Um, Sort of yeah, I don't know. There's nothing I can point to of like, here's a big story moment. I guess I didn't mention the gameplay. You also have you have your younger brother who follows you around, and you gotta like walk with him, and you can kind of direct him to places and stuff. But like outside of a cute few couple instances, you don't really need to. So maybe if you really got into it, you could like sort of like a puppet character in like a fighting game with him. But for the most part, your goal is to like keep him safe, and you don't want to be separated from him for very long. I believe it tells you that. Yeah. Story, visuals, characters. Characters are fine. yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. I feel like overall the game um, didn't really capture me with its story and characters. But it's a visually good looking game, and the puzzles are solid. But I will give it a 3. I thought it was just okay. So yeah, filling up the 2 and 3 columns, and I was thinking about that while I was playing games as well. Like, oh, they're all like, I think at some point over here I was like, oh, they're all like, there's a lot in these columns, just for a while. Um, I don't know if that's spoilers for these. Uh, Maybe it is. Behind the frame, find a scenery. This is like a very this was a shorter game for sure. Um, I saw it and I was like, it's got like some woman like painting painting, yep, on a canvas. I was like, oh, and it looks short, and maybe it'll be some nice art stuff. And so I played it, and I would say, yeah, it was. I do think so. The premise of the game is definitely you're a woman who paints art stuff, right? Um, and there is also sort of like a life story aspect of it, like where like you're following this woman, like you're learning about her life, I guess, a little bit. And there's a little bit of artisticness to it, where like they show um, like a mysterious room or something that you go in, stuff like that. And then you get to paint. Uh, but the thing about the painting is that if you don't paint with the right color, it erases it automatically. And I'm not a. I would like if they didn't really. Okay, I would like if they didn't restrict you and just let you paint, and then eventually get to the point where like you're actually doing the correct thing. So I feel like I missed out on that aspect. Um, but yeah, otherwise gameplay, point and click puzzles, and then you do some painting. Story, you follow this woman. It's somewhat interesting. The characters, the story is interesting, but the characters themselves, nothing really stands out to me there. And then the visuals are nice. It goes in the middle though, 2.5. Cause right, cause it's a nice story, but like I would like the gameplay to not restrict me, and then everything else is kind of in the middle. 100 Days Winemaking Simulator. It's already been an hour. I'd like to speed up a little bit. This game, when I saw Winemaking Simulator, my thought was actually more of like like power wash or like lawn mowing simulator, but actually it's more of like a management sim, like a tycoon type of game maybe, uh, which is fine too. Um, just in this specific case, it's winemaking. You buy the facilities to grow the grapes, and then you buy like a container to have the grapes stored, and then like the crusher, and you want to like wait a set amount of time for it to age, and then you make the wine, and then you want to sell the wine for the profit. And yeah, and there's a bit of a story mode that's not really that interesting, and the characters are not really that interesting. Um, but yeah, it's nice for what it is. I wouldn't say it was bad at all, but like nothing. crazy for sure. I'm just thinking about the rating now. Basically, that's all I really got to say about it. I'm thinking, do I give it a? I think I'll give it a 2.5. I feel like I don't know. The story wasn't that crazy, but it wasn't a bad game, so I'll give it a 2.5. Maybe I'll move something from 2.5 up afterward. For Changing Tides, this is a sequel to Far Lone Sails, which I played. I would say pretty similar game. It is longer, and I felt like there was a little more like involvement in gameplay, which is nice. But I do think this is more of like a, you kind of want to just set the things, and then watch your sort of giant ship thing sort of chug along you can just sit back and watch it move. So I guess when it comes to this game, it was just as good as the first one, but I would have liked it to have evolved into more of like a automation type of game, where it's like you can automate things and then just watch it go. I think that's what I would have liked the evolution of the series to have been. But I would say, I believe I gave the other game, I might have given it a 4. I mean, I can look real quick. No, I gave the other game a 3. So this game also gets a 3. But yeah, let me put some spaces. Garden Story. This is a little RPG game. It's free recently. Recently to the time of when I played it. Is there anything I've got to say about it? It kind of looks like Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. It's a game I played previously, very much enjoyed. But I think what stood out to Turnip Boy for me was like the sort of like background lore. I found that very interesting. Garden Story doesn't really have that as much, even though it is more game, which is fine, right? You walk around, you hit things with your sword, and then you talk to people and you do quests. There's a couple different worlds. There's a day-night cycle, and yeah, I think there's farming, but I don't really remember engaging with that. Yeah, gameplay is fine. Story is fine. Character is fine. And I like the visuals of these type of games. I'd say the visuals are pretty good. Nice, little compact, looking like a top-down Zelda game. I do like that. I will give it a 3. Because, yeah, slightly above average here. So anything I would like to change? Let me get to. Well, no, I'm at 12. Let me just look at this real quick. See if I like what I've done here. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. 2.5s. I could see myself moving this up actually, but I won't. Grudge is next. This is a game. This is a pretty well received game where you fish. I believe the description within the game is just like, or at least maybe people online say this. Maybe it's not within the game, but they're like Lovecraftian fishing game. And yeah, it's nice. It's fishing. There's a little bit of interesting aspect of the story, and I guess the Lovecraftian aspect has like a little of a has that sort of a brooding horror aspect. Not a jump scare, or like a yeah, not a jump scare, and not even like a like an atmospheric type of horror, where you're like scared that a jump scare might happen. Um, it's pretty chill. Just the atmosphere can be kind of dark and dreary, and then like the fish sometimes come out and they have like multiple eyes, right? Like 20, right? Because multiple could mean two, and that's just a normal amount, but they could have like 20. Um, it's enjoyable, I would say. Nice and casual. But gameplay gameplay's good. Nice fishing game. Little inventory management aspect to it. You can upgrade your ship. Um, go faster. Go slower. I don't know if that's actually correct. Go faster. There's some abilities like teleporting and stuff. Um, that's like a Lovecraftian aspect. Characters, there you don't talk too much to them, but it's nice to talk to them when you get to. Right? I like in this game when I was playing. I liked when a new character would show up and have like a little story. Like the scientist is like, yeah, I was doing research here, but now there's a creature, and I sort of now I'm here in the outskirts, and if you could help me out a little bit and get some stuff, but like I'm probably not gonna go back in there with the evil sea creature there. It's like that's interesting to learn. Characters are good. The visuals are fine. It's like Phantom Hourglass is another Zelda. Um, yeah, the visuals are nice. Little ship going around in the ocean. Um, and the story. Story's fine. I'm not super into horror-based stories, and this is like a Lovecraft horror. It's horror anyway. It gets a 3 overall, but it's very solid. I think it's not very much for me, but it's very solid. Um, and I do feel like it's unique in what it does. Everhood is next. This was a club game as well, as was Far Changing Tides. What Everhood? This was a club game. What do I want to say? So before playing this game, I looked at it and I was like, oh, it looks kind of like you know, not one game in particular. Like I think the inspiration a lot of people point to is Undertale. There's a lot of games sort of in that genre that feel similar. That I'm like, oh, it's that sort of subsection of games, right? Undertale. I think this game also states that it's like inspired from Yume Nikki, which I feel like is kind of within that realm, right? Omori, uh, and even like games that aren't RPGs, like Friday Night Funkin', right? That's like a has that aspect of like maybe like a slightly like weird characters, I guess the characters stand out a lot, and then the gameplay. Maybe not the gameplay, right? Because the gameplay of Friday Night Funkin' is different. The characters stand out a lot, and that gets it popular with a group of people somewhere. Because, yeah, feels like that sort of game that like within like a little niche group will get super popular, which I think it is. Um, I guess I mentioned Friday Night Funkin' because that's like a rhythm game, and Everhood is also sort of a rhythm game. Um, even maybe even combines the two of a rhythm game and Undertale like. What do I want to say about Everhood? Gameplay is very cool, by far the biggest positive for me. Um, You play as like a thing on a, how can I even say this? So I guess if you can picture Guitar Hero, right? The notes come down, and you play as a person on the Guitar Hero, and instead of hitting the notes, you want to avoid them all. And then later in the game, you can absorb some of the notes, and depending on the color, you can create an attack, and then you can attack and fight back, and it's very cool, very very standout gameplay. Every fight is unique with its own song, of course, um, and the music very solid too. I did when I was even in the club when we were talking about this game. I talked about how like when it came to the soundtrack, it reminded me a lot of Battle versus Tom Morello from Guitar Hero 3, which is the one that goes like little call and response, and basically the Battle vs Tom Morello. It goes all over the place for what it is, and a lot of Everhead songs do that. And I think, at least for me, this wasn't the best thing. Um, I would have liked a bit more consistency. Um, I think it's nice to have a song here and there like Battle versus Tom Morello, which I think is a fun song. But there were, I feel like maybe even like a third of the soundtrack is like that, and that's a little much for me, at least. I would have liked a bit more consistency to the music in an individual song. Yeah. But that's all I've really got to say about gameplay. I think the story, I felt like they could have spent a bit more time. I felt like I was sort of, they had some good moments. I like the section where you sort of role play Dungeons and Dragons, I guess is what it is. Yeah, that's cool. Um, I think I would have liked to have more of that, and also more scenes related to the what the story ultimately wants you to do for the base default, I guess, normal ending of the game. Um, I feel like that's not like super well built up, or I mean, by the end they're like they kind of explain it enough, but like I definitely would have liked more from maybe not like the main story, but more from like the characters of like how they felt about it. That felt sort of missing. Um, Characters are okay. Um, I feel like again you don't spend too much time with them, which makes it a little hard to really connect. But I don't really know because I think Undertale is a short game, but that's also one I haven't played. So, and people remember those characters. And then visuals, it's like a pixel game. I feel like there's a lot. It's all on like a big black background, which I mean, it's fine for what it is. For what it is, I do think it could be better for sure. Um, so overall, I guess I'm pretty neutral on everything except for gameplay, which I think is extremely good. But I would have liked, but it does have a story that I would have liked to have done more with. I think I'm gonna give it a 3. Yeah, we're still here with 2.5s and 3s. Beyond Blue. This is ocean game. You go underwater and you swim around and you look at fish. This game in particular is about, at least the main story is about whales, following whales. I like underwater games usually. Um, not like survival ones, just ones where you get to swim around and maybe like Abzu where you play like a little story, or like Endless Ocean where I think in that game you just take pictures of fish. Um, and Beyond Blue, similar to that, and I enjoyed it. Story's fine. I thought what was really cool actually was you can unlock like documentary videos, and it's like watching like a Discovery Channel show or whatever of like a marine biologist talking and showing stuff of like here's this and here's that. I think that's always really cool. Um, Although maybe just marine life happens to be interesting to me specifically. Maybe that's why I do like aquariums. The characters don't really stand out, but they all feel like normal enough people. You know, I think that's the intent of the game. Yeah, gameplay I like, story, whatever, characters, whatever. You know, they don't really take you anywhere with that, but it's good for what it is. And the visuals is a nice underwater game. I think it's another three here. Um, I do enjoy these type of games. I would say it's might be close to a four, but it would really have to go somewhere with the story. I think to make it there, because even Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy I didn't actually get to beat. Next we have the Unbeatable demo. This game, it's just a demo, so it's like not the full story. I'm excited for this game to come out, even though I don't really play games on release unless they're free. Um, yeah, gameplay. I mean, I already played the white label, so the gameplay is mostly what I expected. But also they added like a world aspect to it where you can walk around and maybe play little mini games in little places, which is cool too. That's a I guess it's an expected addition, but it's good. Um, Story and characters. Characters are cool. I think they have some good personalities. The story is tough to follow for a demo. It puts you in like what seems like maybe 25% of the game through, and then lets you play like 5, 10, 15% of it maybe. 15% might be a lot, but I don't know. It was like an hour or two of gameplay, honestly. And if the game was like 8 hours long, like that'd be pretty reasonable. Um, of course, the full game's not out yet. That's why I'm speculating with 8 hours. Uh, yeah, story's a little hard to follow though, and I think that makes it tough. I do think for demos, like I'm not gonna give a demo a four unless it's. Yeah, I feel like I'm just not gonna give a demo a four, so it's probably in that 2.53 range, no matter what. Um, and so we'll go in the three range. It also adds an arcade mode with very cool styling. I do like that. Uh, the game does have a moment where like you step through a door and there's like this big like sort of artistic moment that happens that's also very cool. Um, I'm definitely interested in seeing how the game turns out. But for a demo, it's just gonna go in the. It's a good demo, right? Superland is next. I learned a little bit about this game from reading stuff online about how it's a surprisingly good game that I guess a lot of people that are like, oh, I just happened to have it in the library and I played it and it was pretty good. Um, Maybe a lot of people got it for free from Epic because that's how I got it, as per usual, as with most of these games. Um, but not all of them. I did purchase a couple, and a couple of these are ROM hacks and demos, and yeah, purchase ROM hack. I mean, that's going to cover everything anyway. Superland is it's a Metroidvania. It's a first-person Metroidvania. I guess maybe sort of like Metroid Prime. I guess I've never played any of those games, so I'm just putting out a name. This one has a much more. I think Metroid Prime, when I picture it, has a very atmospheric feel. I think this game is very cartoony in comparison. You play as like a little stick figure, kind of, and it's like very clear that the you're like it's like Toy Story or something, where you're like a little army man or something, and the real world is out there, but you don't engage with that too much. You're more so you're still playing in your own little land where the premise is that there are like red stick figures and blue stick figures, and they don't like each other, but yeah, they don't really like each other, but then stuff happens, and then you gotta go over there, and then other stuff happens, and other stuff starts to get into spoilers, but that's the premise. Um, the gameplay is Metroidvania. There's some platforming. You get some upgrades to do more platforming and puzzles, a little bit of puzzling. It's okay. Sometimes some of the upgrades will let you kind of break the game, it feels like. But I think the game is intended that in that way, where you can just kind of get to the top of the map, it feels like, if you try hard enough. And it's cool that the game lets you do that. Other than that, I mean, there's enemies. I kind of hate the enemies in this game. They have a little jump scare sound when they notice you, and then fighting them, you just spam your weapon, and that's basically it. It's not particularly interesting fighting, and I don't really like the dun sound that happens. Um, Story is fine, right? The red blue thing and whatever. Um, Characters is fine. Some of them say some funny things, but it's ultimately very simplistic, and it's a little too simplistic to really stand out. Lastly, the visual. The graphics are fine. And then the environments, like the visuals, the things you get to look at, there's a nice variety to it. A lot of it feels like rocky, desert, grassland sort of thing. But there's a lava area, and there's a big factory looking area too. It's pretty okay visually. I'd say overall, I guess if you're expecting a 2.5, it is, from what people, saying, it's oh, it's surprisingly better. But I wouldn't say it's a huge standout, so I've got another 3. Chicory is next. You only got a couple left, right? Yeah. I might be done before 2 hours. We'll see, though. this was a club game, um, and actually, what I particularly remember about this game is I remember seeing, I guess before playing it, two things. The first, we actually talked about in the club about how like it had a decent marketing campaign, and then it ended up when COVID happened and it got delayed, and when it came back, the marketing never really was able to regain the sort of I guess the audience, and seems like the game ultimately didn't really perform well, which I do think is unfortunate. The other thing I remember is specifically I remember seeing this game in a video game donkey video where he complains about how so many reviewers are like, this game is like this game is like that game, and Chicory, the thing was like, Chicory is a top-down Zelda-like adventure, and then I think that was the end of the clip. Um, and yeah, I mean it is sort of like that, but yeah, that's what I remember. You know, Zelda-like. I wouldn't say it's very Zelda-like though. It's more of a. Um, I think it was only said in that way because people would recognize Zelda. I think that's why that one's chosen, because it's like people know what Zelda is, and it's like, oh, okay, I know Zelda. That's why I can associate with, picture in my mind to understand the game. Although it's weird because like game reviews usually show gameplay footage. So that's kind of weird to say that actually, if you're going to show gameplay footage. Like here, I'm not showing gameplay footage, so like, yeah, I should probably compare it to a game people might recognize. But with gameplay footage, maybe you don't need to. Yeah. Is there a game I can compare this to though? Maybe Undertale. It doesn't really look like Undertale. Doesn't really play like Undertale. I mean, you walk around and talk to people. Yeah, hard to say. I think this game, to get away from what I knew before this game, before playing the game, the actual game, I would say gameplay. Big fan of the gameplay. Um, you get to you get a brush, you get to paint things with colors, and like the whole place is black and white. You just get to add whatever colors. You know, I talked about behind the frame about how it kind of restricts you to doing only the correct colors. This game you can paint whatever you want, and that's good. And it's not even like a only drawing game where like you give like a canvas and then you're just supposed to like draw. You're just drawing on the level that you're playing, and that is pretty cool. So yeah, big fan of the gameplay mechanic. Um, I will say to an extent, especially because you know they try to integrate the coloring with the gameplay a lot, because like they do want to make you color the world at least a little bit. There's a point where it's like you're kind of just using the paint bucket fill tool, and you're just like, yep, let me just fill the whole thing in so I can do my thing, my special abilities that only work when things are colored. But yeah, so it would be a nice game to play really slowly, I think, and just like slowly just color everything very specifically. Although the game is not the most precise, I would say, and this was discussed too about how it's like intentionally made a little difficult to be precise, just so that you know, you can sort of not worry so much about your skill and just sort of have fun painting. I think is the idea that the developers had, which is what we discussed in the club about how this was an idea that the developers seemed to push in interviews and such. Yeah. That's gameplay, I think, right? Yeah, other than that, you walk around, talk to people, do missions. There's dungeons where you get to do like a little fight. Those are nice. I would say not like super crazy, but they have a nice like artisticness to it in their own way, which is nice. Story's good. You know, if you're big on imposter syndrome, great story for sure. For me, you know, it's a nice story anyway. Yeah, for me, quote unquote quote unsuccessful. For me, parentheses unsuccessful. That's not necessarily true, but yeah, but like, yeah, nothing else to say there. Story's good. Characters, a lot of nice characters to talk to for sure. Really, really solid characters. Um, I'd say definitely some memorable ones I can name probably. The family, the character Chicory, um, the older person, older Chicory. That's not their name. They're not even. They're not related to Chicory either. Uh, I thought that's a fun character to talk to. There's a lot of minor characters who kind of have their own little storyline here and there. It's nice to see that. See like they kind of feels like they're really living and not just an NPC. What else? The fox that lives to the right of the main tower. That's a funny character. Um, yeah, that's good enough. I named a bunch of characters. That's good enough. Visuals. I mean, you paint it yourself. I painted that one painting where like God is like reaching out his finger and he touches some guy. I tried to paint that in like the top left corner. I'd say it's pretty good game. You make the visuals yourself, so can't complain about that. So yeah, I think most positive I've been on the game so far, definitely a 4. Would I give it a 5? I could see someone giving it a 5 for sure. I think I'm gonna stick with a 4 though. Um, yeah, maybe with some more time to sit. It is an extremely good game though, in my opinion. I would agree with the idea that like, especially when we looked into it, how like it wasn't very successful ultimately because of the whole delay and everything. I think it does deserve more than what it got. Gigabash is next. This is a arena fighter like Super Shrek Slam. You know, if you can picture Super Shrek Slam, it's just like that. I don't have the gameplay to show you, but this one specifically is an arena fighter, and the visual concept is like kaiju, like Godzilla, or like King Kong, um, or Ultraman, which it has DLC for. You can get Ultraman DLC. He's a Japanese superhero who grows very big. It's that type of visual styling, and a lot of the games, it's like you're like a big monster or a superhero in like a regular size map, and you can like pick up whole buildings and throw them at your opponent. and you can also destroy buildings if you would like. It's cool for sure. Um, I played the story mode and I was like, this is all right. The stories, they're not particularly stand out. There's nothing revolutionary, uh, revealing, revolutionary, sort of eye-opening about them. They're sort of just standard stories. I guess the one with the Gundam, you play as like a little kid in a Gundam, and or I guess if you don't know Gundam, like Transformers, um, but piloted by a little kid and not like a sentient robot. Um, has a generic but good storyline for and the stories are short, they're like 4 or 5 missions with a little story cutscene in between. Yeah, but the story mode wasn't too crazy. But I learned how to play a game, and then afterward, I was like, well, it's a fighter. Might as well do some bot versus bot fights with the community that I'm in that does that. And while I was doing that, I was like, first of all, someone else had already mentioned it like years ago about it, and it just never picked up. I think because nobody had it, but now I have it because it was given away for free. Um, and I was like, this is good. Arena fighters are always kind of janky. Um, you know, not they don't feel super competitive. I feel like Super Shrek Slam. I guess Power Stone's an arena fighter, right? That's a pretty cool game. That's a little janky too with its gems and RNG and stuff. But yeah, it's a good styling for an arena fighter. The concept of playing as not King Kong, but like a King Kong knockoff. It's like a reptilian. He's called Goro Gong. It's basically King Kong, right? But he's like a reptilian looking fish monster. Uh, you can play as the Gundam with the big electric sword. You can play as Giga Man. He's like an Ultraman knockoff. You can buy the Ultraman DLC and play as Ultraman. There's like 5 variants of Ultraman. You might be able to play as Godzilla. There might be a Godzilla DLC. There's a giant plant. There's a giant snail. There's a big Yeti monster. There's some alien looking thing, and then there's a robot version of the alien looking thing. There's like a thing that looks like a pile of magic rocks. That sort of kind of thing, like a TIE fighter, but like made of like magic rocks. TIE fighter might not be the correct thing. I'm thinking of like the Star Wars walking units. I think a TIE fighter might actually be a plane, so might not be correct there. Actually, I think it's definitely not correct, but yeah, pretty cool. I would like to see it. I don't know what I would like to see from it actually, because it's still getting updates. I had a free DLC this year that came out. That was the robot version of the weird alien creature. I guess I would like to see it get more attention. I guess is what I would like to see. I do think I don't know if it's like competitively great, but being an arena fighter, they're all janky. But there's like it's mechanically dense, is what I want to say. I found the more I played, the more mechanically dense I felt. With like, you can build meter attacking buildings, um, and then the meter lets you Gigantamax to be even bigger, and then you also get a super. I don't really know the I didn't fully understand how you get supers other than the floating smash wall that appears. I think if you enable it, um, although I believe it's enabled by default. Yeah. What else? There's like items you could pick up. There's like the plant woman can spawn items and stuff. It was more mechanically dense than I expected, and I feel like it deserves more attention for that. I am gonna give it a 3. It's not like amazing, but would like to see more of it for sure. Sifu is next. I actually started this one around the same time as Ghost Runner. It just took me a long time to beat it. Um, this one's tough to talk about. Um, this is honestly what I remember leading up to this game is that it was nominated for Fighting Game of the Year. People were like, "That's not a fighting game," which is true. I mean, if it had a multiplayer, you could definitely argue it's a fighting game. Like a yeah. I mean, you could just argue it's a fighting game if it had some sort of multiplayer mode somehow. But I can see why like people were like that shouldn't be nominated. I mean, I understand. Having now played the game, that being said, the game is extremely good in my opinion. Gameplay, um, play as a guy and you fight. It is sort of how can I put this? So it is a 3D game, like like Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? Not really, but like you play a character like that, and then you run around the world like that. That's kind of the same. Um, Not open world though. Very only very condensed specific levels. There are various paths you can take, which is nice too because the game is designed for you to replay the levels, and there are only 5 of them. There's only 5 of them. There's 6. One, two, three. Hold on. Fahar, Sean, Kuroki, the CEO woman. That's 4, right? Is there a 5th one and then the final boss, or is there just the final boss after that? Hmm. There's a 5th one. I'm not. If there's an extra one that's there, then I'm not remembering it. I just remember 5 levels. Right? The slums, the club, the museum, great level. The office building, I guess, and then the sanctuary. I don't remember what the office building's called. Yeah, all really good levels for sure. The level design is extremely good. They're all very unique. Going. I guess we're just floating around here to visuals. Very strong visual identity to each level, and I think there's a lot of memorability to it as well. Characters, the story. The characters are alright. It's mostly the boss characters that you learn a little bit about. They're interesting. Um, there was a Medium article I read about the museum that goes into how the museum and the art in the museum relates to the final boss, who of course is the artist of the museum with the exhibit. So it's like that makes a lot of sense, first of all, and it's also very cool, and it also adds characterization. So yeah, characters, story. Story's okay. It's kind of just a revenge story. You're just a guy who wants revenge, and then you go to all these places to get revenge. And there's a little more to it, but that's like, you can play the game and find out. That's the premise is revenge, and it's pretty basic, but obviously it works. Uh, Maybe not obviously. It works because they set up the intro well, and then because the intro is set up well, the revenge aspect comes pretty naturally. So there's all of that, all good stuff about the game, and then there's just the gameplay to talk about. It's a very, it's a beat 'em up type of game. You walk around and hit things, right? Like Lego Batman. But what's different about this game is it is sort of one of those games that tries to be more challenging, and I think it works pretty well here, uh, especially with how visually strong, even if you're replaying the levels, it's like really nice to look at. Um, so that's a big benefit to it. Um, but rather than just run around and hit things, the idea it wants you to do is to like block attacks and then do your hit, I guess. Kind of hard to explain, but like you can't just go in and mash buttons. Except maybe you can do it to some extent, uh, especially if you go lower difficulty. But I mean, even then, like the lowest difficulty, which I played a bit of, I played I played most of the game on normal, and then at the end, I was sort of like stuck on the office area where I was like unable, like I was already in the 40s. I guess I have to explain the age system, where you start at 20. Every time you die, you age um, by your total amount of deaths. So your first death, you'll age 1 year. Your second death, you'll age 2 years, and so on and so on. So like your 10th death, you're going to age 10 years, and that's kind of a lot. Um, if you play on the easiest difficulty, it is linear. Um, so you only age 1 year every time. That's honestly the biggest change of the two difficulties is just that, and it's such a huge change. Um, but even though like the AI, the enemy AI is a little easier on easy, it's still a game that's like you're probably until you become good. Like a first playthrough, you're probably still gonna die a couple times, even on the easiest difficulty. It's designed in that way. So I would say, if someone's gonna play this game, it'd be good to start on normal, maybe try to beat the first level. Um, at least for me, I got through the first level and all the way up to the second boss, and that's when I got the first game over. I aged up past 70, which is the limit. Um, that was the first time. I'd say at that point, like once you understand the mechanics on normal, then you can totally switch to easy, and then because I think that helps to see how much easier it gets when you only age linearly, and it's good because this game is relatively difficult, in comparison to like a lot of games on here, right? Like I would say it's easier than all of these games I have here in the three column. Or all these games in the three column are easier than Sifu for sure. So like if you're someone who's not, if you're someone who's just good at games, you can just good at these types of games. You can just play it and be fine. But if you're not, I feel like it's valuable to see how hard medium is and then swap to easy afterward. Because easy's still going to be hard, but it might help you get through the game, and I think it's worth it to do so because I think the game is really good. But the gameplay, while it's a beat 'em up, it's like you want to be blocking and learning how to parry more than just running in and mashing attack, which is cool. There's also a lot of different abilities you can unlock, um, and those are cool too for sure. Um, I think definitely the idea of the game is to spend your points on permanent unlocks so that when you game over, you can still have your permanent unlock and it doesn't reset. Mm, Anything else I want to say here? Oh, I remember thinking while playing it, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is a very musical game. There's a rhythm specifically in Hi-Fi Rush, and Sifu is not a musical game, but there felt like there was sort of a rhythm of like block, 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 attack, 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 block, block. Oh, I know the third hit is coming. I'll try and parry this time. And then I parry. You get a bit of stun off the parry. You get a bit more damage on your attacks. Sometimes, if you parry earlier, you can attack earlier. Some enemies will block more, and then it's way easier if you just parry them. Um, so yeah, I feel like if you played Hi-Fi Rush, you thought the gameplay was pretty nice, but you thought it was too easy. This game is not too easy. It's got a similar style, and I enjoyed Hi-Fi Rush a lot. Um, I feel like I didn't finish it that long ago. I'm hesitant to put it in 5. It's definitely at least a 4. Um, let's see. I think it's missing the main story aspect of it. Uh, and some of the mechanics, I think the mechanics are all fine, honestly. Some of them are kind of weird, but like none of them are bad. I'll give it a 4. Um, it's very close to 5, but like so is Chicory, to be honest. Yeah, I kind of want to only put 5s if I think everything was great for sure. Like one aspect was super super great that I think it eclipses aspects that weren't as great, like Neon White. I thought the gameplay was very very solid and what's the term for like it's not forgiving or like acceptable, but like accessible. Yeah, Mafia 2. I played the definitive edition, although buying the game, or actually, sorry, receiving the game as a gift, um, does give you both definitive and classic. So maybe I'll replay it again and replay classic. Um, but I did play the definitive, um, which I read online that like the definitive edition is like not that considered that great. Like they kind of did bad, and like there's some visual glitches which I did experience, but nothing. I didn't experience anything crazy. So it was an okay experience for me. Um, Gameplay, you get in cars and you drive around, and then you do shooting missions, which it's okay. Uh, I'm trying to think of like, is there something I can compare it to? It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Alan Wake, to be honest. right? Because you can get in a car and drive around in Alan Wake. But the handling in Mafia, I would say definitely a bit better than the handling in Alan Wake. Usually, people would compare it to GTA, which has car driving and shooting as well. I could see that too. Um, yeah, nothing incredible about the gameplay. The shooting is fine. You know, you got a couple of different guns, and it's pretty cool. And then yeah, there's a cover system which you're supposed to use. I think if you don't use it, it's kind of difficult. So you should be using it. Um, yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say there. Um, yeah, but nothing like big and standout about that shooting game. And then the driving is fine. You know, there's a lot of different cars. There's some nice looking ones for sure. I'm not really a car person though. Yep, so there's that. And then there's collectibles too if you want to collect the collectibles are wanted posters and Playboy magazines. So that's fine, right? There is nudity in the game with the Playboy magazines. Yeah, but I mean, collectibles are cool. You know, not much else to say about it. So that's gameplay. Story. Let me think. Story. Characters. Characters are fine. They're all like very mafia Italian like. Um, they show off some like Asian mob group as well, like a yakuza, or maybe they're Chinese, or something like that. I think they're mentioned that they're Chinese. So you have diversity kind of, but it's kind of stereotypical. The Italians are like mafia Italian stereotype, and you got like a African American gang stereotype, and then you have like the Chinese gang stereotype. So you know it's okay. You know, I think the characters that are not like minor characters do have, you know, personality to them. That's good. You know, it's some interesting stuff. I like that there's a character named Papa Lardo. I think that's a funny name. Yeah. No huge standout though in terms of characters. Yeah. Yep. I thought Joe, who's like the second most important character, sounds like Family Guy. That's not a negative, I guess. That's characters. Visuals. I mean, the visuals are fine. You know, it looks like an older, like not a super old GTA, but like a 10-year-old GTA or so. You know, it's got a nice look to it. It's not bad. 10 years ago was 2015, right? Maybe Bioshock looks like Bioshock. I don't actually know what Bioshock looks like. Enough to say it looks like Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. But I think the visuals are alright. Or at least the graphics. The stuff in the game, you know, you have a little city that you drive around in. I think it's cool that a lot of missions take place in this one city. There's a couple other settings. Um, like when you go to jail, there's a prison setting. It's you know, provides some visual diversity, so that's nice. No big standout, I don't think though. Yeah, just like the characters. The story is it's there. It's okay, right? Like it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like kind of what is expected of a game like this, I guess, to be, what a game needs to do to be considered, not terrible. Goes through the motions. I don't think it super stands out though. Um, I do think overall it does do pretty well. Um, Gameplay's pretty good. Just coming to ring out. I think what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna move Chicory and Sifu up to 5 here, just both of them, because I was thinking, they're pretty close, but I'm not 100% sure, but they're pretty close. And I'm gonna give Mafia 2 here with good gameplay, pretty solid characters, pretty solid visual setting, and an overall expected story. But I'd say it did everything positive, and and the gameplay's solid. Even I do wish there was like a more distinct free roam in the game. It does. It's weird because GTA is free roam, but this game is like when you get to the end of the story, it just ends, and if you want to do like a free roam, you gotta reload into a certain chapter. But within the chapters, you can totally free roam, and I think that's nice. So it's very close. I don't think it's very high in the 4 column, but I'd say it above averages everything enough. I would say it's honestly equivalent to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't get to beat Guardians of the Galaxy, so like I feel like I can't in good faith put that in 4 without having done it. Oh, Multiversus is here. For the final time, presumably, Multiversus. If you don't know, Multiversus is a game that came out in, when did it even come out? Like 2022? And then they're like, oh, it's just the beta actually. And they close it down in 2023. And then they brought it back for the full release in 2024. And then now in 2025 they're closing it down again, which is really funny. And I feel like, at least for me, I feel like development was always kind of a joke game to me, specifically because in 2021 Nickelodeon All Star Brawl came out, and that game was like, it was fine, but I felt like it definitely didn't live up to being like Smash Bros. Tier, which of course is like hard to do. But then like a year after that, the Disney Warner Bros. Version here of not Disney, Warner Bros. Platform Fighter is supposed to come out. I'm just like, right after Nickelodeon All Star Raw, it's like, yeah, it's not really gonna be good. But it was free to play, and then when I got into the alpha test, I was like, oh, it's actually playable. Like you can actually play the game, and it's functional. And for 2022, definitely, I was like shocked that the game was pretty good. I think I would have considered it maybe even a 3, maybe a 2.5 type of game. But in 2023, I believe I gave the game a 1 because they shut it down. Because I'm like, you can't even play it anymore, so what am I going to do? Well, you could play it, but just none of the features, right? Like, you could go into, I think you could go into local mode, and that was it. Um, so I was like, it's okay, but I gotta give it a one because you can't really access any of what it has right now. And then they brought it back, and I gave it a 2.5, I believe. I was like, I think now that the shock of like, wow, this game actually functions is over. I'm like, it kind of just exists and it's fine. And I mean, I'll play it a little bit, but that's it. And then and I expected this game to close down end of 2025. And they surprised me again by doing it like 6 months earlier than that. And so yeah, now they're closing it down, and it's not like they don't have like an excuse or anything. Like we actually like with the beta, they originally planned to do like beta, and then smoothly transition to full release is what they said. But then they changed their mind because they wanted to transfer everything to a new engine, which is why they took it down. Here they're just like, we're just ending support. So presumably it's not going to come back. Although it would be hilarious if they did it. I need someone at Warner Bros. To like gaslight the CEO into thinking it's a good idea to bring it back. It'd be like Morbius, right? Um, as it stands now, they made an offline mode if you played the game prior to it shutting down. Like it was like you got to play the game between February 2025 and whatever the shutdown date was or something like that. Um, Offline mode is, it's got all the stuff that was in the game that's not related to connecting online. You can go in, do the sort of story mode it has. It's not really a story mode, it's more of like a short story mode, right? Like they give little short stories. Um, and yeah, I mean, you could do training mode, you could do the local play. Uh, but yeah, connecting online obviously doesn't work. And like lobbies, I think required online, so they don't work either. And they never re-added, Gigabash. Big fan of that game. As I was like, oh, watching the bot fights, I'm like, wow, these CPUs are competent enough, and they're doing the mechanics, and I'm learning some stuff about it. This game, uh, CPU fights went away um, when they reworked the game, and it never came back. And now they're shutting it down, and it's still not back. And the way to do it was also in the lobby, which is not even a thing that exists in the game anymore. So yeah, really unfortunate. I did do a thing where in training mode where it's like whoever takes the most damage gets the win. You know, but that's not real CPU fighting. Um, so yeah, presumably the final rating of Multiversus. Um, since you can still do most of this stuff, and I did say my reason for giving it a 2.5 was that it is a nice collection of Warner Bros. Media. The dialogue in the game is not bad. It's cool to see the characters and they're all together as a crossover. And that aspect still holds true, but with no support. This is now a dead game super early. I cannot give it a 2.5 anymore. And so presumably the final rating for Multiverse is here a 2. Umarangi Generation. This is a photo taking game. I remember seeing this game. I don't remember where or why. But I remember the very first time I learned about it, I thought like, oh, it's like a jet set radio maybe, which it's not. It is maybe jet set radio in terms of like visual style, but you walk around and you take pictures in this game. It's that sort of game. And this is fine. Um, yeah, the gameplay, you walk around, take pictures. You know, there's missions in each level. Um, it is a level based game. Uh, and you have a set of missions like take photos of like 7 birds in the same photo or something like that. That's fine. Give you a bunch of different lenses and stuff. The lenses, honestly, pretty cool because like the wide lens really, does go kind of wide, and you can get more things or less things in the photo, get things from further away with the zoom, and it's pretty cool. I like the, I don't know if it's the wide shot or the, I think it's one with a particular name, and it does a sort of wide shot, but it's like a little warped. And yeah, don't remember what it's called, but I like that kind of effect, and it also helps a lot with completing missions because you get a lot of stuff in the photo. Um, yeah, there's no real story. I mean, it basically just shows you stuff, which is a big plus to the visuals. Graphically, it's Jet Set Radio tier, but um, what it shows you, I think, is like super interesting. I feel like it can get a little political looking. Gets a little political looking. I don't know if those are even different words. But it's a completely, like, nobody's gonna talk to you in this game. It's a very silent photo taking game. Um, but yeah, very very interesting stuff to look at because it's like it does feel like you're looking at something meaningful in this particular game in Umarengi Generation. So yeah, gameplay, visuals, story I talked about. The characters, there's a couple of recurring characters. They're like, these are your friends. This girl with the glasses, this dude who's a little big, and then this other guy with like the hat or whatever, and a penguin. And they're in all the levels. And I think the little bit of continuity is nice with those characters. I think that's a good thing. Obviously, nobody talks to you, so it's like, yeah. But yeah, so nobody talks to you, and that means there's like nothing, nothing what revealed revelation, no revelations from the characters, no like, no character growth. I guess is what I want to say. No character growth. But that the little bit of continuity is a nice thing, and overall, I would say Umarangi Generation, with not really a story, but cool visuals, cool gameplay, and I guess not really characters. Let me look at what's in 3 and what's in 4. Do I want to give it a 4? It's tough because I think I might. I think it's less of a game than Mafia 2, but I think it's a more visually. It's a more distinct one, right? Like Mafia 2 kind of falls in the cracks of like, here's a game that looks like this, um, looks and plays like this. Umarangi Generation is very standout to me. Hmm. let me check what I have here. So in my sort of pre-set notion, I have it as a 3. Um, but I could see myself giving it a 4. I think I'll give it a 3. I think it needs to do a bit more with like maybe continuity, not just having characters appear, but like more be less, because it is a bit of a fever dream almost in a way, and I would like it to, maybe there's an artistic sense to that, but I would like a game with a bit more continuity, consistency to become a 4 out of 5, because Mafia has consistency at least, even though it is a less memorable game, I think. Toem, or maybe Tome, Toem. Another photo taking game. This one is more casual, more Turnip Boy Garden Story vibes. Is it isometric? Is that what I would call it? I don't even know if that's correct. Um, but yeah, this one's nice and casual. You go around, you take photos. It's nice and fun. Characters talk to you. I don't know if they're really interesting. Yeah, gameplay, photos. I feel like the camera is not as interesting as the one in Umurangi, but I mean you can still take nice photos. The characters, they do talk, but they don't really stand out too much to me. It's like a garden story character you can talk to and they'll say something. The story is, so the premise is you are going on an adventure. Take a photo of a sort of natural environmental phenomenon at the top of a mountain. And to do that, you want to take photos, and the photos will earn you bus tickets to the next area. And then eventually you can make your way to the mountain and then get your photo. Visuals, it is black and white, which is a little washed out, especially I guess maybe because I played Chicory, which is like it's black and white, but you have to color it all. This game's just mostly black and white up until you get to towards the end. There's some very colorful stuff, and I think maybe that's the idea of like here's this crazy visual phenomenon. Uh, Maybe that's spoilers, but they showed at the very beginning, don't they? Maybe they don't show it, but they explain it. I guess is what I want to say there. Because she's like, don't look at because your aunt at the beginning of the game is like, don't look at this photo. You don't want to spoil it, but it's very visually distinct. Yeah, so they explain it just like I'm explaining it now, but they don't actually show it, just like I'm not showing it. Um, yeah, but there's a big visual burst, I guess, at the end. That's very cool. But up until that point, things do feel a little white. Overall, I'd say positive. I'd say like Garden Story, right? I guess it goes right next to Umarangi. Although, yeah, in this big 3 out of 5 column. Last game, River City Girls. This is a beat 'em up, two-dimensional with a little like, I don't know how it's called. It's not lane shifting, but there's a third dimension component to it. Um, this is like a spin-off of River City Ransom, which is like a super old game. They might have a couple modern ones for it, but this one features two minor characters from the games now as the protagonists, um, and their goal is to actually save the protagonists of some of the original games. It's a nice premise, and it's a good game. The gameplay, it's a beat 'em up. You walk up, you hit things. Um, Much more standard, not like Sifu. You can kind of just walk up and mash the button, and it's mostly okay. Yeah, I think you will die, or you will have to use healing items if you're not blocking or parrying, which this game has. But I ended up not really using either of those that much. I just use healing items slash, dying. And I don't think I really died that often either, though. But yeah, nice gameplay, some cool bosses. A lot of the bosses have some pixel. Um, well, what's the chiptune music, which is some nice stuff. And then a lot of the base game, I don't know if a lot of the base game, but there's a couple of like guitar, rock like songs. It's nice to have. Visual style is nice. It's got a mostly pixel art style, and then for cutscenes they have like full character models in a sort of anime like style. Yep. Uh, yeah. Gameplay, visuals, story. I explained the premise. It's a good premise. Um, has a pretty good payoff. There is two different endings. There's like a normal ending and a true ending, and honestly, they're both pretty funny. I'd say they're both pretty good. Um, the base ending is kind of funny, and then like the true ending is maybe more satisfying, which is nice. The last games I played with base ending, true ending. I mean, Castlevania actually had one, and that one was. I mean, that one was okay. I feel like they could have done a little better, but it was like acceptable for a DS game. And then Neon White had two mediocre endings, in my opinion. Um, but great gameplay. Yeah. So story, characters. Characters are fun. Characters are fun. They've got good personalities. The two main characters are fun. The bosses, they talk to you and they're nice. Two, good characterization. Um, I don't know if you like in terms of like the grand scheme of things, some of the characters like you don't really learn about the world that they live in, but the characters are fun. So yeah, good gameplay, good characters, good story, and visuals are fine. I think. Oh, do I give it a 5? I do think beat 'em ups are maybe kind of limited, so I think I'm gonna give it a 4 because it's hard to see it as a 5. I do think with like these beat 'em ups like this game, and then the other beat 'em up that I like a lot is Castle Crashers, but that game is like it's okay by yourself, but I had enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot because I played it with other people. And this game, I enjoyed it, but I think maybe if I played it with someone else, maybe it would be a 5. Um, that being said, I think it only has 2-player co-op and not up to 4 players, which I think is a little unfortunate. Um, but, it has co-op. So, a 4. And, There it is. There's all the games. So that's that. Um, Let me show my updated top 100 list, right? As you can see, we have the mid 2025. I suppose it's no longer in progress, right? Things might shift around, right? Most of the top doesn't, but like here, I moved XCOM down. So let me get it on screen here. So relative, the absolute is just the raw score, and then the relative is just relative to the other games already on. So like Chicory here is new. Um, and this is actually in the 5 out of 5 tier, so that makes sense to give it a 5. This is right at the edge of it, but yeah. Um, but you can see this moves down in absolute terms 1, but relative it didn't get passed by anything. Some small stuff here. I moved Neon White up. Transistor. Mario Master of the Skies. I realize I don't really remember the gameplay of this game, so that's gonna move down. And I'm like, maybe I'll look into it more, and maybe I'll move back up. Maybe I won't. Um, yeah, I mean, it's all on the sheet. You can look at yourself. Armored Core, I mentioned before that I had just completed it, and I was like, I think it probably moves back up, and I ended up moving it up a lot. So there's that. Yeah, and then other than you have Chicory and Sifu up here, and then way down here, River City Girls, Marvel Guardians, Mafia 2, Castlevania, Gigabash, Umurangi, and Dredge all make the list very near to the end. And then Plague Tale here was in it for a short while, but was pushed out by the other games. Then, of course, you have some games here that fell off. And then my honorable mentions, I did remove some of the games that I felt wouldn't make my top 100 now. But these games, I would say, still would if they weren't like, if it didn't feel like I was like repeating a game, basically. Some of them are probably close. Kirby Squeeze Squad might be the next to go. Yep. So there's that. And then I guess the last thing is my plans here. Um, so I have this here, but I think for this month in particular, July, I'm thinking of like, I've been like not really into playing games. So I've been thinking like, I should just break. Maybe I'll play a game here and there a little bit, but like, I haven't really at all since the start of July. With one exception, I was playing a little bit of Uma Musume Pretty Derby. I saw it and I was like, oh, it's like horse racing. And I mean, people in Smash CPU have compared it to horse racing. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll like it because of that comparison. So maybe I'll play it. And then after I was thinking about it, I'll probably tell the story again when I have to give a rating for it at the end of the year. But I saw a YouTube recommendation for like some random VTuber, and I was like, it mentioned the name of the game, and I was like, oh, it's a clip of the game that I was thinking about, so I'll check it out. And I clicked it, and the clip wasn't very interesting. I don't remember who the VTuber was. They were just like, "What's your favorite horse girl from the game?" It's a horse racing game, but the horses are like anime girls, by the way. Um, yeah, I don't really remember the clip, but from the recommendations there was it was like unofficial Northern Lion VODs no chat, and then it was him playing the game, and so I was like, oh, it's like completely different from the VTuber. So I'll click on that, and I clicked on it, and I skimmed through it, and there were moments where he was getting pretty excited. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll play it again. And then I think at work the next day. No, sorry, not at work. It was lunch break. Yeah, at work lunch break. I was looking at the SSBM subreddit, and in the daily discussion thread, there was like a random guy in there who was like, "Hey, anyone playing this game?" And I was just like, "Wow, that's 3 points." It's like VTuber that I've forgotten, bald guy, and then random guy on Reddit all recommend the game. It seems like I guess I should play it, and so I did. And I mean, the rating will wait. I don't know if it'll be like a super high rating, but I don't think. I do think it's a pretty okay game, at least for right now. We'll see. Um, I would say it's enjoyable. I don't know if it's a big standout for me though, so far. But I haven't played it a ton yet. I don't know if I'll really play it a ton this month at least. Um, the schedule, maybe I'll pick up playing games in August. Maybe I'll play one of these. But even the club game for this month, which is actually Children of the Sun, I decided, I'm just gonna take a skip month here and pass on it. Even though it's like actually even before the club, it was on my wish list. Um, I was just like, I can wait. That game came out not that long ago either, so and I like to wait a million years before I play a video game, unless it's free to play. Or no, unless it's free to play, because the free to play stuff always has the early joiner rewards. So I'm like, might as well grab those and play the game while they care about it. That's all. That's good. That's my rating. Uh, I'd like to. I don't really care that much about hitting. Like I played 25. I don't care about getting another 25 that much. But I suppose if I had a goal in playing games, it would be around there. I think if I reach this point, I'd be pretty close to the end of all the games that I'm interested in playing that I own, and then I can stop playing video games. But yeah, there it is. Thank you for watching. See you in December or January when I've got another. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't have any games after this. But there it is.